if you can see my slides. Let me know if you can see my slides, whether you put like a yes, got it, whatever in the chat, and we will get going here. So let's see here. Yes, yes, yes. Perfect. Okay, awesome. Amazing. All right, so what is a Pinterest manager? So before we go any further, I want to explain what this is and just because if in order for you to make a decision and decide if this is a good fit for you, because that's ultimately what I want you to walk away with tonight, is clarity on this being a good career for you. And I've put this in emails before, and it's not being snarky, but you are giving me space in your email inbox if you're receiving emails from me. And I don't want to keep showing up in your inbox if you're like, this isn't for me. So I've even said, hey, like, no hard feelings. If you want to jump off my email list, I get it. But if you feel like this is a good fit for you, I would love to help you get started. So, in order for you to decide from a place of clarity, you need more information, which is why you're here. And I'm so happy you're here. So, as a Pinterest manager, you are a freelancer. You are not an employee. You don't work for Pinterest. You're not employed by Pinterest. You have your own business. And in my academy, I teach my students, about how to the essentially like the foundations for setting up their business. And I even have a guest expert training where I have a CPA come in and talk about like establishing your LLC and paying taxes and the things that go along with running a business because you're running the show, which is super exciting, but it can also be a little intimidating, which is okay. There's things that go along with that. And so I give you truly everything you need to start and run your business successfully. But I want you to understand that as a Pinterest manager, you are a small business owner. And so you are providing your services. You are working on people's Pinterest account and they pay you for that. Now, you might be wondering, why would somebody hire a Pinterest manager? Why would somebody pay me to work on their Pinterest account? Because Pinterest makes money for businesses. So if you have ever actually put this in the chat right now, put in the chat what your favorite thing is to search on Pinterest, whether that be recipes, DIY ideas. Um, I have even searched like how to style like I recently I think it was like a leather skirt or something. I was like, especially in the winter, I'm like, how can I, which actually I guess I don't know that if you'd be wearing a leather skirt in the summer, I don't know. Anyways, clearly fashion is not like my forte. So I was looking up ideas. Whatever that be that you're searching on Pinterest, put it in the chat because depending on what you're searching for and the results you're getting, it changes the business model. So, for example, food is such a popular niche on Pinterest, right? When you find somebody's pin, maybe it was um, Super Bowl recipe ideas last week. When you go to that food blogger's website, they can actually monetize, make money from you just going to their blog. You know, all those pesky ads that come up. That's one way that bloggers make money is getting traffic to their website. Now, there are some types of business owners who just sell products. I was looking for invitations for my daughter's, now she's 5, and I'm like, it was her first birthday, but I wanted the theme like Winter Wonderland because her birthday's December 22nd. And I had like, it's so funny how parents care so much about like the first birthday, or at least I did. And like, it's just for you. They don't remember it, right? So I wanted like a Nutcracker theme, like this Winter Wonderland, and I knew what I wanted on the invitations, but I couldn't find it. So I actually went to Pinterest to just see, and I actually saw an invitation and I was able to click through and I was like, "Oh, thank goodness. I literally could buy it from the pin." And it was from a very popular site, but it just like cut out all this extra searching on my end to just enter it in on Pinterest. And it was the invitation I wanted. So I literally bought it right there. So product sellers, it was a physical product. Like they shipped the invitations to my house. It was from a very popular website like Zazzle, but big businesses, small businesses, they can all benefit from people getting to their website. Now, what that business owner does with people once they get to their website, it depends on their business model. Like I was saying, bloggers make money a lot of times just from people going to their blog. Um, Product sellers make money from people going to their website and buying their products. I have my academy and also my Pinterest course for business owners. So teaching people how to market their business on Pinterest. So I have a lot of different educational courses and they are in depth. They have taken me a lot of time and some of them I even provide coaching. So it's a big investment. And so with that, people might not be ready to buy from me right away. Like they have to decide if this is a good fit. So ultimately with my Pinterest traffic, I actually don't expect somebody to buy something from me right away. A lot of times they get on my email list and they listen to my secret podcast or watch a free training and decide if this is something they want to do. So for me, I use Pinterest to build my email list. Where I'm going with this is the way that people make money from Pinterest varies depending on their business. But why somebody would hire you is because Pinterest helps them make more money. So for me, and I want you to decide right now, does this feel good to you to help business owners? Because I think that you really need to have a good handle on this business model to see if it feels in alignment for you. When I first started looking for work from home options, there were a lot of things, and I'm not like poo-pooing these things or saying like this is bad. It just means it wasn't for me, like affiliate marketing, doing an MLM, becoming an influencer. You might even see that on my Instagram content now. Like I have like reels that perform well where I'm like, this wasn't for me. And I'm like I said, I'm not saying that these are bad, but I'm just saying they didn't work for me or I wasn't interested in them. Offering a service to business owners and helping business owners, that felt good to me. They were paying me for my services, and that was in alignment for me. So, like I said, that felt good to me. So, when you are thinking about this, I want you to think about that business model. You're offering your services and people pay you for your services. Okay. It also creates like this ecosystem where yes, they're paying you for your services, but you're also helping their business grow and make more money on Pinterest. So it kind of keeps, it's like small business owner supporting small business owner. And to me, I'm like, you know what? That feels good. I also, my personality type, like if you're familiar with the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram too. And like that's like the helper. So for me to help business owners and to offer something where they were growing, but they were helping my business too, that felt right. So I want you to put in the chat now. I want you to put in the chat, does that make sense? What a Pinterest manager does and why somebody would hire you. So, thinking about that as a Pinterest manager, you are actually working on their Pinterest account. So, you could love Pinterest and have a million boards, but you're not actually working on your account. You're working on your client's account. So let me know in the chat if that makes sense because it's really important to have that foundational understanding because if you don't know what it is, you don't know what it means, you don't know what you'll be doing, how can you make a decision about this being a good fit, right? Let's see. I love reading what people like to do. Oh, Deanna, that's awesome. Crochet. Yes. My daughter wants me to teach her how to crochet. And I'm like, Gigi, I would love to help you, but I don't know how to crochet. I know we bought this like crochet like for dummies kit at Barnes and Noble. And I was looking at the directions and I'm like, I need to like watch a video. I'm like such a visual person. It was pictures, but I'm like, I need to like go to YouTube and watch a video, or I could go to Pinterest, right? Jocelyn DIY, decor and design ideas. I love it. Megan, art and design. Maritza, recipes and design ideas. Erin, home decor improvements, hairstyles, recipes. Oh, yes, home decor is one that I do all the time. I have also bought really expensive things off of Pinterest, like furniture, because it was exactly what I needed. Um, Megan said it makes sense. Erin, in regards to what you do, yes, I love marketing and making connections. Amazing. Deanna, yes. Woobles, yes, oh my gosh, I was just looking at those. I keep getting Facebook ads for those. But I saw, Deanna, that it looked like in terms of age, I think it said like 12 and up. And my daughter, she's really artistic and like picks things up pretty quickly, but she's 7. And I wondered if they were like a little bit too advanced for her, so I didn't buy it. Maritza, I enjoy mentoring coworkers. Oh, I love that. Okay. So I'm so glad that this is making sense. We're making, we're connecting the dots here. Like I said, this is foundational. So this next piece, I want you to, and you, if you've ever been on one of my trainings, you may or may not have done an exercise like this, but this is so important because I really want you to think about the future because the decisions you make right now obviously impact the future. And if you keep putting off making a change, nothing changes, right? It's like Einstein's definition of insanity to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. So you're here for a reason. You want something to change about your future, or you know that you need to create an income stream, or maybe you want to quit your current job. I would love to hear actually more about where each of you are right now in terms of like if you enjoy what you're doing, if you're wanting to quit. These are important things to know. And that also impacts your level of motivation and effort. And that's a really important piece because I'm just going to put it out there now. This isn't on the slides, but it's so important to know this isn't like a make money quick, get rich scheme thing. It's not a pyramid. It has nothing to do, you know, this is like you're building a business and it takes time. And I always say, like, Rome wasn't built in a day. Your business isn't going to be built in a day. And I do have students in my academy who get their first client within like 3 to 4 weeks. That's fast. I would say it's more typical, like 6 to 8 weeks. I'm thinking of one of my students, Gwendolyn. She took 12 weeks to get her first client as a Pinterest manager, but she was working full time. She had 3 kids and she was also finishing up 2 online courses. So you can be doing other things and still start your business and be successful. But one thing that I think we all have to release is like our expectations in terms of how long it should take. So I did want to share that. Like I said, this isn't something that it just happens overnight, but like you're building a business. And the thing is, it's like, okay, so maybe it takes a couple of months to get your first client, but this isn't something where you are trying to just make money quick. You're building a business. I've had my business now, it'll be 7 years this summer. This totally changed my life, but I knew in the beginning that, I'm starting a new career. I know that it might not just like explode overnight. So I like to be very transparent in what it requires and what it entails. And like you are building something that is yours, but it does take time. So when you're thinking about this, I want you to put in the chat, where do you want to be 3 years from now? And I want you to put in terms of hours you're working and income you're making. So for me, for example, when I first started my business, my goal was like, I just want to replace my teaching income, which was like $1,800 a month. This was also 7 years ago. And I also taught in a very low socioeconomic area. The teachers were not paid well. But it was around $1,800. I still have the pay stubs. So, and I don't know why I kept them, but it's kind of nice to have those receipts because I have posted stuff about that before. It was actually like on YouTube, and so I had people being like, she's lying about that. There's no way she made that little as a teacher. And I'm like, oh no, I still have the pay stubs. So, anyways, when you're thinking about this though, I was like, I just want to, if I made $2,000 a month, that was more than I was going to make teaching. And I wanted to work part-time hours. So that was a huge change because when I was teaching, I was working like 50 to 55 hours a week, and I was literally making $1,800 a month. So when you were thinking about this, clearly life has also changed a lot in the past 7 years too. So it's important to note that. But when you're thinking about this, where do you want to go in the future? Like, what would your goals be? And it's so important to think about that because, like I said, if nothing changes, then, nothing changes and you stay in the same spot. Or maybe you even move backwards. So I want, and when I say move backwards, that actually makes me think of my student Gwendolyn. She was very open about this. So I'm not like airing out secrets or something, but she shared on an Instagram live with me. And I share it because it's relevant to other people. Not only when I say like going backwards, she has a full-time job, but they were actually like doing pay cuts. So she wasn't even, if she continues at her current job, she's not even going to be continuing to make the same. She's actually going to be making less and still doing the same amount of work. So, when sometimes these things happen or these changes occur in our lives, it makes us feel like our backs are against the wall or it's like a breaking point. And we're like, we have to make a change. So I want you to put in the chat, where do you want to be 3 years from now? Income monthly, hours you're working weekly. And so that is going to be when we're looking at these 4 squares over here, that would be like the amazing. So when you are thinking about that, where you want to be 3 years from now, like maybe your goal is like almost like, this is silly. I don't think this could ever happen. I want you to go there. I can think of like, I remember thinking that when I first started my business, I wouldn't even like let myself think about like making 5K monthly. That just seemed like incomprehensible to me, especially after making like less than $2,000 a month as a teacher. And maybe that sounds crazy, but that's where my mind was. So I want you to think about that like amazing out of the park results and put that in the chat. Deanna, 10K month, 20 to 30. Oh my gosh, at the end of the day, I can't talk. 20 to 30 hours. Megan, 10K, 15 hours. I love it. Jocelyn, 10 to 12K a month, 30 hours a week. Erin, in 3 years, I want to be part-time hours around 20, but I'd like to be making 20K a month, but money is more important than number of hours. Yes, totally get that. Jessica, 10K, 15 to 20 hours. And that's such a good point that you bring up, Erin, because I do think that for some people, the number of hours is more important than how much they're making. Vice versa, some people are like, I need to be making at least this much. Even if I have to work more, that's fine. I would ideally love for all of you, though, to, be hitting both, right? So now, Erin, yeah, single mama. So now what I want you to think about, what would be the okay result? I want you to think about that, whether you write it down or you put this in the chat. Maybe if you said 10 to 12K, maybe it's more like 7 to 9K. If you put like 15 to 20 hours, maybe it's more like 20 to 25 hours. So maybe it's a little less income, a little more working time. Then I want you to think about poor and then ultimately the worst case. And I'm a very positive person, but I do think it's important to let ourselves sit there for a minute in the discomfort because we have to consider these things when we're deciding if we need to make a change or not, right? So for me, it really wasn't like I was in the discomfort. When I started my business, I actually had not been working for about 8 months and I did have another income. Not me, actually, I'm married, but my husband, he was providing for our family, but he had an entry level corporate job. And honestly, he wasn't making a lot, especially to be, supporting a family. We had just bought a house. Timing wasn't great on our part, but everything is in, hindsight's 2020. So after about 8 months, I'm like, okay, I don't have a job. I can't go back to teaching because after we did the math with childcare, just did not make sense. And we knew we wanted to have more kids. And so if I did go back too, I was actually going to go back 3 days a week. That was the deal I had worked out essentially with the school. And if I went back 3 days a week, I was going to be losing my health care. And a lot of the daycares require if you take, three multiple days, they want you to you have to pay for all 5 days, whether you utilize. Where I'm going with this was I was going to be paying to work. And if I continued to do that, if I was literally paying to work, like you can't make that make sense. So that was going to put me in the worst case scenario. I was going to be losing all this time with my baby and then I was going to be paying to work. That didn't make sense. So I want you to think about that and where you're going and what that means for your future. So Erin, 10 to 12K a month, 7K, 5K. Thank you for breaking it down like that, Erin. Okay. Megan said, okay, 5K, 25 hours, poor 2K, 35 hours, worse, staying the same as now, unemployed. Yeah. And so when you think about that, if you did that for like the next 3 years, it's like, it can be scary. And like I said, I'm a very positive person, but it's important to think about that because I think it really puts in our minds like, okay, like the change needs to start now, right? So when you're thinking about this, I want you to think about it as a time horizon. And with these arrows, we're here in this black arrow. We'll say that this is February 16th, 2025. Over time, tomorrow, next week, next month, the next 3 months, the next 6 months, the next year, the next 3 years, over time, these lines get further and further away over time. And depending on which track you're on, you're either getting closer or further away from ultimately what would be like your dream result. And over time, where you want to be, your dream in 3 years from now, in the worst case scenario, the difference between these almost becomes insurmountable. And if we were to continue on the wrong path, it's like, have you ever heard that analogy with like a plane? And if they're even like 1 degree off over flying like multiple hours, they end up like on like the total opposite side of like the country. And like that 1 degree, but when you continue to make that continual, pattern in the wrong direction, it's crazy how far off course it gets you. That's why it's important to make a change now if you want to change 3 years from now. So, like I said, over time, they continue to get further and further apart. So we're here because I should say you're here with me, which I appreciate so much. Side note, thank you so much for taking your time to come and hang out with me tonight. But I want to help you get to that amazing, like, I didn't even think this would be possible goal. And so, what I find from doing trainings, talking to my students, this is not something that is new. I've even been, I've had my business what will be 7 years this summer, but I've already had my academy for already 2 years. And so I've been training and coaching and teaching almost all women. I've only had one man in my entire 2 years, and it's not just for women, but it's really only who I attract apparently, which I'm totally fine, but mainly women. And what I have found from doing these trainings and also working with my students is that they have this goal. Obviously, part-time hours is crucial, but to be their goal is really to hit like 10K months and beyond. And so that's what I want to help you work towards. So what we're going to talk about here, we are going to look at this triangle, and what we're going to do is kind of build out these sides of the triangle. And what this ultimately is doing, building out these sides of the triangle, I'm sharing with you my framework that I'm teaching in my academy and how I'm helping my students get to 5K months in like 6 months. So Adriana, former orthodontist, and she had not great like work-life balance. Her mental health was really going down the drain. Once again, she was somebody that I shared her story. I interviewed her on my Instagram. So I'm not sharing personal things that she asked me not to repeat or anything like that. She shared it on my Instagram and it's on my YouTube now. But she shared that it was really taking a toll on her mental health. Long story short, she enrolled in the academy in February of 2024, and by July of 2024, she had her first 5K month. And despite having an amazing career as an orthodontist, she never has any intentions of going back. And then I think of Annie. Annie enrolled in February of 2024, and she was still teaching. She quit her job by June, and then by December of 2024, she hit her first 5K month, and she was like, I can't even believe this is happening. So I shared this because think about it. If I have students who are hitting that first 5K month in 6 months or maybe 9 months, think about where they could be in 3 years. So let's look at this. The first piece of this puzzle or my framework, people want freedom and money. So they need an income, but they want flexibility and not just like flexible time working, like choosing when you get to work, but literally part-time hours where like maybe you only work somewhere between 2 hours a day to maybe as many as 5 hours a day. And I want to say, side note, as I'm sharing this framework and I refer to my students and what they're doing, my students, when they first get started, most of them have a full or a part-time job. They don't have full-time hours to be devoting to this training and essentially starting their business. They're doing this so they can leave their current job. So if you don't have a lot of time right now, that's okay. Welcome to the club. A lot of my students don't either. Like I shared, Gwendolyn, and another student, Emily. Emily has 5 clients. She's teaching full time. She has 3 kids. I'm like, how are you doing this? So I just want to say you would be in good company if you don't have a ton of time. And what I do find though, students like Annie, who started and was still teaching full time, she did ultimately quit her job. And then what that allowed her to do is it did open up a lot of time in her schedule. And she was just able to really like step on the gas with her business. And then I have students like going back to Gwendolyn, who she has 3 clients right now, and she's like, I'm not going to quit my job until I at least get to 5 clients. So, this freedom and money, let's talk about how to get to that freedom and money, right? So, the first piece is you are probably here because you love Pinterest, but we have to transform your skills. So, the first piece is you have to have some skills training. Nobody was born knowing how to market on Pinterest. And as a Pinterest manager, that's what you're doing. You're actually marketing on Pinterest. So, we need to transform your skills from Pinterest user to Pinterest guru. And I want to share just a little bit behind the scenes of some of the things you would be doing as a Pinterest manager. So I'm actually going to X out of here. Don't get dizzy. Hang with me here for a second. And I want to pop over to this other slide. Now, one thing, because remember, we're transforming your skills. You love Pinterest, you use it, but you're going to actually be looking at it from the other side. So, one of the things you get to do as a Pinterest manager, you get to design the pins. So, here I'm on Canva. Canva is super user friendly, it's really fun to use. I find a lot of my students have used Canva before, but if you haven't, after this training, get it free. You can absolutely get it for free. Get a Canva account and start playing around. It's really fun. So they even have Pinterest pin templates on Canva. I do create my clients from scratch, meaning that they are unique to their business. I'm not using pre-made Canva templates. You can definitely get inspiration from the templates on Canva, but like this, for example, I made this pin for myself. So this I was actually playing around. Canva even has like an AI tool where a lot of times I use my own brand photos, so pictures of me, because I'm really like the face of my business. My business is called Emily Vales. But I was just like testing out how Canva can use like AI photos, and this is like an AI photo. I think it feels pretty AI. I'm still like not sure. I actually wanted to test it because I wanted to see how it would perform on Pinterest using an AI photo. I'm very much like authenticity, which I think, there's a purpose for AI. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. This is not what this training is about. But when you are a Pinterest manager, one thing I think that will be freeing to you if you're like, wait, I'm not super creative. I don't know if I can do this. Actually, your clients will be providing you with images and videos. So you are not a like product photographer. Let's say one of my clients, she sells baby pacifiers, and it's really fun. When I had my third daughter in 2022, she actually sent me like a box of baby pacifiers, which was so sweet. And so all of the pictures of like the baby pacifiers, she provided those for me. Like she gave me her assets. And then even like the fonts, the colors, the logo. I already have my fonts, colors, logo. So let's say Jocelyn is my Pinterest manager. I would be giving all of these things to Jocelyn, and then Jocelyn gets the fun part of like designing the pin then. And so you can see this would be like kind of starting with like a blank slate. And then on Canva, it's so nice. You can even like have your brand kits. So you can see some of the brand kits of my clients. So like Stephanie's colors are already here. Nicole, Lily, Jody, I rebranded. These are my new colors. And one thing too to know is that Canva does have, so let's say you're searching for a teacher. Canva does even have stock photos. So if I was making a pin for one of my teacher clients, maybe I grab a stock photo, and sometimes I would use stock photos from Canva. But this is like the fun parts of the design. So one of the things I do daily as a Pinterest manager is I design pins. So let me know in the chat if you think this sounds like fun. Let me know in the chat if you think this sounds like fun. Now, one of the things I have to do then is I do schedule the pins. And you can see here, this pin now is on Pinterest. There is a little bit of writing involved. So I had to write a title and I had to give the pin a description. And one of the pieces that goes into a title and a description is using SEO. SEO means search engine optimization. So when you include keywords and you're using SEO when you're writing that title and description, that is how you're helping your clients' content get discovered. So you also have to have a place where you're linking the pin to. So for example, let's see here. I could link this pin to like my secret podcast, or I could link it to, let's see here, my blog. So I have lots of blog posts that I could link my pins to. And ultimately, remember how I talked about at the beginning that the way that people monetize their business is different. So if I direct one of my pins to like my blog posts, ultimately what I want to accomplish, because like I don't monetize my blog what I want people to do, they can go and watch a YouTube video, but ultimately what I want people to do would be to check out my Pinterest Manager Academy and maybe sign up for my free training where I can teach you more. So I'm just kind of giving you the behind the scenes of how to design pins and some of the things you would be doing as a Pinterest manager. So, okay, let's jump back over here to my slides and let me know in the chat if that you think that seems like it would be fun. Let's see. Awesome. Yes, yes, absolutely. Perfect. I love this. And Lisa, welcome, Lisa. So glad you're here. Okay, so that's, some of the things that you'll be doing. And like I said, you get to use this love for Pinterest and you're kind of looking at it from a different perspective. And I was a little worried that I'm like, will I still like this once I start working on Pinterest? Because it is different than being a user. But I can honestly say that when I decided to really focus on Pinterest management, you're niching down because in the beginning, I actually was a virtual assistant. You do not have to start there. I have lots of students who are like, I want to become a Pinterest manager and they just start there. But I was actually a virtual assistant and I knew that to make more money, a good way to do that would be to like niche down and just like focus on one thing and become an expert at that. And I wondered if I would get bored with Pinterest or if like it would make me not like the platform anymore. And quite the opposite. I just became even more obsessed with it. And I still use it as a user, but I love the marketing side too. And it's a totally, like I said, it's a very different perspective. But that's also why people would want to pay you for it, is because it's not as intuitive, meaning that like a lot of business owners don't know how to use it. And so that's why they need your expertise. And I've had people who have hired me where they're like, I tried to like have an assistant do it or somebody on my team, and we just didn't get any results. And that's because it really does require a unique skill set. So now the next piece, you probably heard me say this, the no hustle automation. So you saw kind of a little peek inside Canva, me designing the pins. I mentioned like writing titles and descriptions. One thing I do is I do automate. So I use a scheduler like Tailwind. And all of these things I'm mentioning, I teach in depth in the academy. I wish I could teach you everything you needed to know in 1 hour, but that's just literally not impossible. So I'm just kind of, explaining but like I said, I can't go in depth. But one way that I knew Pinterest would be a good fit for me too was that automation piece because since I could schedule the pins, I like when I had 3 clients, I worked on Amanda's account on a Monday, Dina's on a Tuesday, and Ashley's on Wednesday. And when I would schedule them out, like when I did Amanda's on Monday, I wouldn't touch Amanda's account again until the next Monday. So you could really batch the work. And I would sometimes work from like 4 in the morning until like 7 in the morning because I would work before my kids woke up. And there's not all this back and forth with your clients. It's kind of like introverted work, which I also really liked because I could schedule, I would get into this flow state, do my own thing, and I could do it at odd hours. So I wanted to, like I said, I'm not trying to make you sick, hopping around motion sickness over here, looking at different screens, but I wanted to show you Tailwind. So once again, we are on my Tailwind. I actually am due to publish. I need to get some more pins scheduled on my own right now. It's being a little slow. I was trying to show you my publisher. But what I want, like I said, it's kind of being slow here. But what I want you to see, there we go. Oh, goodness. I don't know why it's saying that I'm not connected to Pinterest because I am. Anyhow, on Tailwind, this is what I'm using to schedule. So let's see if we get, here we go. So you can see I need to get some pins scheduled, but I'm using this scheduler to batch my content. And this automation was crucial for me, especially like I said, that I can't always be available certain times of the day because I have little kids at home. So I wanted to show you a little sneak peek of what that looks like. So let's jump back over here to my slide. So that's really that when you're thinking about that freedom and money piece, the fact that I could schedule, I could batch, that was huge. Now, the next piece, when you're thinking about the money and getting to that 10K, we all have to start somewhere. So you're going to start off as a beginner, right? But one thing I teach my students is this transparency in their pricing, meaning that you're not charging expert pricing when you're not an expert yet. We're going to get you there, but we have to start somewhere. So, in the beginning of my academy, I start off very basic, but then I move into considerable depth. So you can think about like kind of stepping into the pool, and by the end of the academy, you're swimming in the deep end. So you are going to get there in terms of that expertise, but in the beginning, we all have to start somewhere. So I teach my students how to price their services, and a lot of times their packages range from $500 to $700 a month. So when I was talking about Emily, who's teaching full time, has 5 clients. She is charging around 500, and I actually told her, I'm like, Emily, you need to increase your prices because she's been doing this for multiple months now. She has experience and her clients are getting good results. So she has 5 clients, and I want to say that most of them are around $500. So she's making about $2,500 a month. But and that is, I know that's been huge for her family because she still has her teaching salary too. But like I said, as you get better, you not only get faster, which is like a built-in pay raise because you charge by package, not by hours, but you also increase your prices. So you go from this beginner pricing to more of an expert. So I have students like Annie who do have experience and an expertise, and she has some of her clients are around like $1,100 a month. Okay, so actually, before I move on, I want you to put in the chat in terms of how you feel with your skill set, what you know right now, and getting to that freedom and money part. How do you feel about that right now and your skills right now? I want you to put, let's use like a stoplight system. So green if you're like, this part totally got it. Yellow if you're like, I need a little help with this. And like red if you're like, whoa, I need help with this. All answers are accepted. Like there's no right or wrong answer here. It's just like where you're at right now. It's kind of a pulse check. Lee said red, Jocelyn said green, Megan said green. Nice. So I see a little bit of both. This makes me so excited. Jocelyn, I love this. Red but familiar. Amazing, Aaron. Love it, love it, love it. Jessica, green, amazing. Okay, so the next piece. This piece makes me so happy because, like I said, Rome wasn't built in a day. Your Pinterest management business is not going to just like explode in a day. However, I do have students who I'm like, well, daggone, you made progress pretty quickly. I have students get clients very quickly. And one thing that I'm like, I will die on this hill. You don't have to have a website the first day you start your business. And I think that in order to create momentum and to like almost validate that you can do this because you can do this. You can do this. But to get that validation and get that momentum, I really want my students to get that first client because something shifts in their energy. And it's like I said, it's just this validation. They're like, oh my gosh, I can do this. And it almost becomes addictive. And even though it's maybe not like the $10,000 or $15,000 goal you're hoping for, maybe it's a $500 package at the beginning, you have to start somewhere. And I think that it's just so validating to get that first client and realize like this is in my control. And this is something that you can scale to the moon. And you might be thinking, but wait, if I have 5 clients and you're doing the time and the math, you can't look at the whole picture just yet because things can really change over time and you'll grow and develop and evolve. When I first started my business, like I said, I couldn't even, it was like incomprehensible to think about 5K months. And I literally said 3 years ago, I never wanted to coach. My husband asked me if I ever thought I would like want to coach. And I'm like, no, that's just stupid. What am I doing now? I'm coaching. So when you're thinking about this, there's a lot of different ways that you can continue to grow and scale. And like I said, you're not going to have it all figured out in the beginning, which is scary, but it's also really exciting. So I got off on a tangent there. Sorry, I just got really passionate. But in the beginning, just get your portfolio done. Get that portfolio done and get your first client. In the academy, I teach you all of the packages, all of the prices, how to get testimonials, what to do for testimonial work, how to get on a discovery call. I even have a mock discovery call to show you like what that conversation looks like and how to wow that person. So they're like, oh my gosh, like Lisa is so organized and she just like, I am so confident in her skills and her taking over my Pinterest account. So once you get on those calls, I took pride and I had a really good conversion rate. Um, 4 out of 5 people I would get on a call with became my clients. And it wasn't because I'm like so amazing or anything, but they were just confident and they knew that like I could help them. And so I feel really good about helping my students with nailing those discovery calls. And like I said, my students that I'm sharing, I've kind of sprinkled in these different stories because I want you to hear these different successes and identify with them and know that, you can do this with just a portfolio. So that's a huge piece of getting the right client load. So I didn't even mention the other piece of the framework, which is really stressed in my academy, is getting clients. So acquiring clients and getting the right load for you. And what I mean by the right load is based off of how much you want to make and how much time you want to be working because we don't want to trade one overwhelming full-time job that we don't love for another one, right? Like we want to love this work. We don't want it to take all the time in the world. And we also need to make money though. And so the thing is the harsh reality is if you don't have a client, you're not making income, you don't really have a business. So there has to be an exchange of money in order to have a business, right? So that's why I do have a heavy focus on acquiring clients. I do teach my students multiple strategies for finding clients. That is anything from Facebook groups to LinkedIn to, and I even give my students like the links for Facebook groups I've had success in, and now they're getting clients in some of these Facebook groups. Um, I explain like you can use Upwork and Indeed, not huge fans of those. I do find a lot of business owners, those sites that I just mentioned, Upwork, Indeed, Fiverr, they connect business owners to contractors. And like I said, you're a contractor as a Pinterest manager, but I find a lot of times they're looking for a lot of work for little pay. There are opportunities out there. One of my students, not Emily, teacher Emily, but Emily Etsy shop owner. One of my students, Emily, who's had a lot of success, she enrolled in May. She has like a $600 client from one of those platforms. So it's a little bit of sifting, but you can find clients there. Now, the next piece with getting the right client load, this is kind of like your secret weapon, one that I did not utilize in the beginning with my business, but I later did when I realized like, oh, like I need some clients and I need them now. So what I teach my students is a no excuse paid to pitch strategy. So what I mean no excuse is I teach my students how to reach out to business owners and essentially craft this email, and it's really helping the client understand what Pinterest could do and really visualize what Pinterest could do for their unique business. So I teach my students like how to make it authentic, how to make it personalized, but then paint this picture for the business owner about what Pinterest could do for them. And it's not this like icky like, hey, hire me, like no put it like not putting effort in. I get pitched to every day by people literally just like messaging me on Instagram, emailing me, and I don't take any offense to that. I totally understand like people got to shoot their shot, but it's just mind-blowing how little effort. The bar is set very, very low for pitching. If you saw the pitches I get, I am like, you just copy and pasted this and sent this to 500 people. And the funny part is even with no effort, eventually they will get somebody to say yes. However, we don't want to be like that. And, like I said, everybody's got to shoot their shot, I guess. But what I teach my students in terms of reaching out, it comes across so differently. And that like speaks to business owners. Some of the pitches I read that my students have put together, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never received anything even half this good. And so a lot of my students, like Annie, I want to say she's gotten like at least 4 or 5 clients from pitching, which is incredible. Gwendolyn, all 3 of the clients she has right now is from pitching. So when I say no excuse paid to pitch, you will get a client that way. So you can't make the excuse that you're afraid you won't find clients because you will. Then it becomes a effort and a patience game because it does require effort, and sometimes you have to be a little bit patient because you could send 15 emails and you don't get one taker. That's not that many emails. Was something I heard on Alex Hormozy's podcast. He's like brilliant when it comes to business. He's very crass. He uses a lot of bad language. However, he's brilliant, and you can learn a lot from him for sure. So he was talking about how when he was first starting his business, he had a gym business. And he was trying to get people in to come to his gym and become like a member, right? And so he had a mentor tell him to put flyers on people's cars. So he put 300 flyers on people's cars and he got one call. And the person calling was like, "You scratched my Mercedes." And he said he just like hung up and the person never called back. Yeah, I don't know that I would do that. But, anyways, no takers, 300 flyers. So he calls his mentor. He's like, "Yeah, it didn't work." And he's like, "Well, how many did you do?" He's like, I did 300. He's like, 300 like in an hour and a day? He's like, "No, 300 total." And his mentor's like, "We do 5,000 in a day." And he was like, my mind was just blown about how much effort it takes. Now, I'm not saying you're gonna have to send out 5,000 emails, but and even like I think of my student Diana. Diana sent out 9 emails, and one of those people became her client. I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. It doesn't always work that way. I've had students who have sent out like 50 or 75 emails before they get somebody to book a discovery call with them. But when you think about that in the grand scheme of things, yes, it takes effort. But in the beginning, if you don't have clients, your most important work is client acquisition. So, you have to decide like I said at the very beginning, this isn't some get rich quick thing. It's like I'm building my business, but also too, you have to think about that client acquisition. That's not wasted effort. When you get some of those clients, it kind of snowballs. And like my student Courtney, she got her first client from pitching, and that client referred her to one of her friends, and that became her second client. So it was like that effort that she put in with getting that first client paid off and gave her her second client. So things like that happen as well when you're putting in that effort. So the next piece with getting the right client load, in order to support multiple clients, you do need to have systems in place. I remember in the beginning with my business, I had one client, her name was Kadeen, and she was a teachers pay teachers seller, and I'm a former teacher, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like I loved working on her content, like designing her pens, scheduling it out, and doing all the work. But holy moly, it took me forever. I would sit down and I would still like work for like 5 hours and get like a little bit of work done for her. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I loved the work, but I'm like, this is not scalable. How am I ever gonna have multiple clients? This takes me like a year to work on one. And so I didn't have systems in place though. I didn't have a lot of like formal training. I was like learning through doing. I was, trying to piece things together. I ultimately did take a Pinterest marketing course, but it didn't teach me how to manage and handle multiple accounts. And so I was trying to like piece things together. And gosh, it took me a long time. And so over years, literally years, I did create systems that allowed me to scale and be able to support multiple clients. So when you're thinking about getting clients, keeping them, creating a good experience, and being able to manage multiple accounts, you have to have systems in place. So that's a huge piece of getting clients because if you're overwhelmed with one client, it's like, how are you ever going to have multiple? So I want you to share in the chat how you feel about the client acquisition piece, managing multiple accounts, working with multiple people, also getting the clients. I would love for you to put that in the chat and use the stoplight system. So, like red, if you're like, I need a lot of help with this. Yellow, if you're like, I kind of have some of these pieces figured out, or like green, if you're like, I've got a portfolio. I've already got clients. Like, let me know. I've already got systems. Green, red, yellow. The discovery call makes me nervous. Megan, well, that's why I ended up adding in a mock call. So at first I had a lesson on how to do the discovery call, even like give a script. I like have a script, like things to ask. I also share slides if you wanted to like make a presentation, like what you could provide for your client, especially because I think it just looks organized and professional. But then I actually did a mock discovery call with one of my students and recorded it and then put it in the academy so that you can really see what that call looks like. But I did want to share, Megan, that my students, admittedly, are very nervous for their first discovery call. And I think it would be abnormal to not be nervous. So I think you were in good company. But one thing I want to share is that with the preparation and the training they're receiving, they are so pleasantly surprised at how well it goes and how much they actually know. they're like, oh my gosh, that went so well. I'm sending a proposal. And then you're like, you feel like on top of the world. So I do want to share that those feelings are very normal. I'm seeing lots of yellows. That's awesome. Okay, the next piece. So bear with me for just a couple more minutes here. No one's left behind. I truly find that no matter who you are or where you're at in your business, you can always be learning and growing. You will never hear me say, I already know everything. I've already got everything figured out. With no matter where you are, you can get stagnant. And there's always going to be somebody who's beyond you that you can learn from. And I think the teacher in me, like I will always consider myself a lifelong learner, and I can't help but want to continue to grow. And I told myself for the first couple of years of my business, I was content. I had already like way blown my goal out of the water in terms of just like replacing my teaching income. But naturally, like I wanted to continue to grow and it was exciting and in some ways kind of addictive and in a good way. I still work part-time hours, but um, what I realized though is that I needed somebody who had already done what I wanted to do, who needed to guide me. So, one thing that really makes the academy different in the framework, and I have had student after student say, like, this is what made the difference in the academy. It wasn't like your lesson on SEO. Yes, they had to have that in order to understand how to market on Pinterest, but the resounding theme is that there's a lot of people who can teach you how to market on Pinterest. That like I'm aware of that. What makes it unique is there's not a lot of people who offer personalized one-on-one coaching. And that's what makes me unique. There are so many online courses, but none of them are giving you that personalization where when people give me their portfolio, they put it in my coaching channel and I create them a Loom video. I'm giving them bulleted feedback. Like it is not surface level, it is not fluff. It is like, I care about your success. And that's not something you're going to get just anywhere. So that's really what makes the academy different. And what my students are sharing is a huge factor ultimately in their success is the personalized coaching. Now, when you are thinking about this, the academy is multiple months long because it's going to take you multiple months to not just get one, but 4, 5, or 6 or more clients. And I really want to support you every step of the way. With that said, it is multiple months, and that is just the structure of it. However, with it being multiple months, I still have some students who are like, just give me like the fastest track. So even though I have multiple months of coaching and training from you, like I want to get the first client as quickly as possible so that I'm working with clients and still getting that coaching from you. So I do have like a 6 week um, blueprint where if you want to get that first client as quickly as possible, you can kind of follow that blueprint. And then the thing that's really nice about that is like, let's say it takes you 4 weeks to get your first client, but you still have multiple months of coaching with me, you're still going to have lots of questions because the thing is your questions don't stop once you get your first client or your second client or your third client. There's always nuances and things that come up when you're working with your clients. And it's really nice to have somebody who has been a Pinterest marketer for 6 years to ask some questions, to say, like, this is happening. What could we test here? They asked me this, or like, why isn't this getting approved? And like I said, it's so nice to have that feedback so that as you continue to work with clients, you get that support. So, like, I know my student Whitney, she's formerly a dental hygienist. She has 2 clients now. One of them is like her dream client, huge, very popular blogger. And she actually was finishing up her coaching time and she asked to extend it, even though she'd been successful, super happy with her results. But she just wanted to continue to be able to ask me questions. So I know that that part is kind of priceless in terms of getting that support. So part of my program, you get a weekly coaching call where we're talking on Zoom. I have my students say, obviously, like I'm not just talking at them, like we talk back and forth. It's very personal, but then they also get access to Slack in the community. I do like to explain that, like, inside Slack, that's our coaching channel. It's really like an alternative to like a Facebook group. You are not investing in peer coaching. Yes, you get community, and sometimes people will be like, I just want to hear like how many clients you have and how you got them. Like people will ask questions like that. And of course, they're not just asking me, but I do tell my students, like, please tag me in all of your questions because I answer every single question that comes through. Every question is important and is, I want to personally address. I do have another coach as well, Erica, and sometimes I answer every single question, but then you also will even get Erica's feedback because she's kind of like a design pro. So she gives a lot of support in terms of like your portfolio design, coming up with your own branding. And then what else? The pin designs that you're creating for your clients. So it's just like extra. And then another piece in terms of the coaching, I even have guest experts come in. So I've had a guest expert come in talking about time management, one who talked about Google Analytics, one who talked about hiring because I've had students even hire their first VA. So I, have lots of like bonus material as well. So this is the framework though. I want you to share that last piece in terms of coaching, having somebody you can go to, feeling like you have support with your business. How do you feel about that piece? Use the stoplight system one last time, and then I'm gonna wrap this up. So we're right at almost right at an hour. So let me know how you feel with that last piece of the triangle, and then I am going to share a little bit more with you. So let me know, like I said, one last time. Megan said green, Jessica said green. Green is a huge draw for me. Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about questions. I would love for you to put your questions in the chat. And this week, I have some availability. So, I do have a couple of spots left inside the academy if that's something that you're interested in learning more about. I am going to take 3 calls this week. So, I have 3 calls that I can take. If you would like to book a call with me, what I'm going to do now, I'm actually going to stop sharing. I'm going to put this in the chat. Please put your questions in there. If you would like to chat with me one-on-one about how you can implement this framework and join the academy, I'm going to put this in the chat so that you can snag one of those calls. My schedule, like I said, I'm just taking 3 calls this week. I have a couple of other calls booked already. So I will put this in the chat, and then I wanted to give you all a chance to ask any questions you might have. So if you want to grab one of those calls, I'm just taking 3. Put that in there, and I will give you a few minutes if you have any questions. And one other thing I wanted to mention to you, I will, if you would like to watch this replay, I will send out an email. I know some people had, like, I got actually a couple emails about people having bad weather. So we did too. I actually am like smiling because I was sledding today. So we had not like terrible bad weather. We had like close to like a foot of snow in January. Not anything like that, maybe like a couple of inches at most. But I did get a couple of emails from people saying that they had like bad weather and they were trying to like get home from work and stuff. So, depending on where you are, I know some people couldn't make it, so I will be sending out a replay. So, like I said, I'm going to take 3 calls, and once those are booked, they're booked, and I will be limiting that availability. Let me know in the meantime if you have any questions, and if not, I will be wrapping this up soon. Lee, yes, I do. Would you like for me to share that with you? Absolutely. Let me grab that for you, Lee. And Lee, I was gonna mention too, if you would like to email me questions as well, like if you, especially after looking this over, Lee, you can, I'm replying to you. There you go. I just shared that with you. If you would like to email me any questions you have or want clarity on anything, let me know. I'll put my email, hello@emilyvales.com.